I got to have a hot shower today, an actually hot shower, which is kind of a luxury right now because I haven't had reliable hot water for about 2 weeks. It's been like minus 30 to minus 42 where I am in northern Canada right now. And and there's people close around, like in nearby areas, that have gone down to like minus 46, minus 47. And I mean, for anyone on the Fahrenheit, this is all in Celsius, by the way. So I looked it up, and minus 45.5 ish is minus 50 Fahrenheit. So if you're thinking in Fahrenheit, yeah, it's cold. And it was colder than that in some places up here. So for everyone's curiosity, because I know for a lot of people it's hard to imagine living in these kind of temperatures, I figured I would talk a bit about aspects of life when it is this cold. So Northern Canada had a cold snap, and we usually have cold snaps. I think we usually have our most extreme ones in January and February. But the holidays around the winter solstice in December, like Yule, Christmas, Hanukkah, all of those, we usually don't have this cold of weather for those. Like, this is a weird year. It's cold. It's usually very cold, but we don't usually have 2 weeks of like minus 30 to minus 45. So yeah, everyone who lives up here has pretty much experienced these temperatures before, but this was a very long cold snap during the holidays, and it just seemed so much worse this year. Probably because it was around the winter solstice, which is when we have our longest nights of the year. It is the darkest time. So after the winter solstice, the days start getting a little bit longer each day. But yeah, hopefully this was the darkest and coldest time we will have this winter. Although I'm not holding my breath. And when it gets this cold, I just want to stay inside. I want to hibernate. I want to eat hot food. I want to drink hot drinks. I want to curl up in my den of a bed and just sleep for the next 3 months until, springtime comes and it's only minus 15 to minus 20. And this year, I was definitely feeling that to a whole new degree. Just wanted to hibernate. But then I realized I was also eating turkey for most of the time over the last couple of weeks. So I probably can't blame all of my hibernation urges on the cold. Although it didn't help. And I know people all over Canada, including parts of Canada, that also get like close to this cold sometimes, although it's much more rare for them. People in the US, people in Europe, people all over the place who have just never lived in a place that gets this cold. So I'm going to share some details about what life is like up here. I made notes because that's what I do. So let's start with the most personal and painful. What's going on with the human body when it's this cold? So minus 30 to minus 45, that's when you start to feel your eyeballs freezing. So you're walking from your place out to the car, from your car to work, anywhere that you have to go, like getting groceries or doing stuff around town, your eyes start freezing. and yeah, for anyone who hasn't experienced it, it's not exactly a pleasant sensation. Like, especially in the corners, how when, like, if you squint your eyes, you try to keep everything closed, you try to have your eyelids cover up the moistness of your eyeballs. So it's usually in the corners closer into your nose. That's what starts freezing. And I mean, almost better for me with glasses. Anytime that there's wind, at least sometimes I can keep a lot of the wind out of my eyes. And if people wear like full face visors or something over their face, goggles, like snowboarding masks, things like that. The other thing that starts happening is if you breathe too quickly or too deeply, you start coughing because your lungs are freezing, like mostly through the mouth. If you're just breathing in through your mouth, but also a little bit through the nose, yeah, your lungs are not happy. They start freezing. You start coughing. It hurts. You want to slowly warm up the air by breathing through your nose, but it doesn't always help at those temperatures. Or having something over your face, that helps a little bit. But yeah, so breathing becomes a little bit difficult or unpleasant, or you need some help to do that at minus 45. Frostbite is common. So there's like frost nip where like you just get like little frozen crystals, and you can get like little bits of scarring, especially on the cheeks and the nose and the fingers, the lips. Or it can be full-blown frostbite where you're like losing sensation and you're actually experiencing like massive tissue damage. And it can happen in minutes. I remember being a kid and bundling up and waiting for the school bus, and I hated it anytime it was colder than minus 25. So minus 30, 35, 40. Like you get little bits of frost nip on your cheeks or your nose, and yeah, it just sucks. It's just a part of life. And then gloves are even hard to wear sometimes because your fingers are separated and there's just more interference with the heat from your hands. So you want to have mittens where all your fingers are close together, or like doubling up and wearing multiple ones, but your hands are still usually cold and you can't really do anything. You kind of have to go around and like open doors carefully, and it feels like a whole challenge in itself. And then even with snow boots, like a lot of people, you can barely feel your toes unless you're doing something really active and increasing circulation down there. So just numbness, danger, risk of frostbite to the extremities. Muscle tension goes up. So anyone with like muscular issues or stress and tension issues, like all of those go up. It's hard to relax your muscles. Sometimes it's hard to move your muscles. Anyone with any sort of condition or just pattern of storing stress in muscles, it becomes painful to move a lot of the time. Wearing like 4 thick layers helps. It's what I usually have to do, where probably more than 4 layers really. But I mean, at that point, you might as well just roll down the hill to your car or roll to work because you're just so bundled up in layers that it's just uncomfortable. And then you still have to actively heat yourself up once you get inside. You have to move around and like rub your hands together, friction and body heat and circulation through exercise, like warming up by the fire, the heater, whatever you've got going. And everything is some combination of kind of numb and kind of sore. And body heat works very well for warming each other up, but you're not really in the mood a lot of the time. And then even if you are, you got to get up half the way through to stoke the fire. It's not a great time. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some people really like it. Some people really romanticize it. I've been up here long enough. I grew up here. It is not a good time for me. I've been so cold. I've been trying to get things done, do things around my place, and I am just cold from the inside out. Heat on as high as possible. It literally won't go up any higher. And just trying to live under blankets to stay warm. Stacking insulating materials in front of my windows to try to keep the cold at bay. Occasionally having a really hot shower, like random hours in the middle of the night when we actually have hot water because everyone else is asleep. It's just ridiculous. If you don't mind the cold that much and you want some interesting stories, visit Northern Canada in the middle of winter and you might see what we all deal with every once in a while. And when it comes to social services and supports and all of that, like homeless shelters, emergency shelters, like they're all full. And it gets to the point where homeless people or even people with just crappy heating or no heating in their houses, well, I mean, pretty much everyone has heating unless it breaks, but like they'll fake injuries or fake illness to go stay in the hospital where it's warmer. So then the medical system gets overstrained because the shelters are full, the hospital is full, because everyone's just trying to get inside somewhere. And we do not have enough safe, orderly, clean and sober indoor housing options up here. I mean, a lot of people are scared to go to the shelters after the last, stabbing or rape or murder. People who are going through a really rough time in life, they do not have a lot of safe options, especially ones that are enforced and actually safe. people get put up in hotel rooms by like NGOs and government money and all of that. But then they can also get kicked out for bad behavior, and so a whole can of worms. Like the social issues around trying to house people safely during cold spells it's a huge giant topic that I'm not getting into details with. All you really need to know is that people who are going through a rough time or don't have their own home don't have a lot of safe, orderly, enforced options. And when it comes to buildings, like windows and doors have ice around them. You can see the frost like creeping through anywhere that there's a seam around the door, hinges, bolts. It's I ended up watching The Day After Tomorrow with some people recently, and the scene of like the ice chasing people down the hallway and coming through the doors might be a lot more slow motion in real life, but I mean, it's a very familiar thing up here. Anywhere. I had snow this thick on the inside of my curtains. So if I open up my curtains, I have chunks of ice falling down. And then, of course, that insulating layer of ice is gone. So then there's an even colder spot when the ice breaks away. So you might as well just leave it in place and throw up some extra curtains. Our hospital windows have like thick ice, even thicker than my windows, that just melts and is a hazard on the floor for any electronics or slipping. Like the ridiculousness of how badly things are made and what products people are using in building construction that do not deal at all with the cold. And I know that there are some better options out there, but, for some reason, when they're building something up here in the north, they don't use those products. And of course, people are using all the hot water, so people's water heaters, hot water tanks, they cool off a little bit earlier, and they take time to refill or reheat up everything. So, lukewarm water as well can be expected most of the time. And like random things around the city, like streetlights flickering, the lamps won't work because it's just too cold. Automatic doors don't work properly. Like you have a building that has mostly automatic doors for people going in and out, like grocery stores or the hospital. And the automatic doors are broken, not working. People can't get in or out of them. They started off slowly creaking open, and at a certain point, they just stopped working entirely. So you have the added hazard of not having entrances and exits in all of these places that are supposed to have them. You have to either take the long way around or go in and out emergency exits. Because a lot of people just don't realize how many things are just not made to operate in the cold. -30 to -45 colder. Oh, there's a siren. I wonder if it's another house fire because someone's creating a fire pit in their bedroom to stay warm. It's not that cold when I'm recording this video. It's only like, -25 now. But yeah, where was I? A lot of things are just not made to operate in the cold. And because we have such a low population up here, like we're not on anyone's priority list. No one is setting aside, science and technology funds to make technology work better for the couple of crazies that live in the north where it gets to -50 or 60. We are not high on the priority list when it comes to making technological advancements, which means we get automatic doors that do not door. And the biggest risk up here during these temperatures is power outages, because most of the homes being built these days are all on electric heat. There are very few wood stoves left up here, at least like per person, per the population. Most of the new homes that are being built do not have wood stoves, so people can't really have a reliable source where they can just go out and get fuel anytime they want and heat their homes. Wood stoves are kind of this, You kind of get it on both sides. People who can still use wood heat, who have wood stoves, are either the people who are roughing it out in cabins and don't mind kind of rustic living in cheaper or more traditional locations. Or it's the super rich who have every form of heating imaginable. So if the power goes out, they're always going to have options. And for years now, there's been these like PSAs, public warnings from the government that, like, if you use too much power during peak hours, there's a chance that the people just heating their homes or cooking, Christmas dinner, making turkey, are going to overload the grid and cause power outages because the grid can't keep up. That is a huge problem, because if you're going into red during any times of the year, as soon as you have some like different factors, different dates that line up, like holidays during a -40 spell, all of your people are in danger. So many people are in danger of freezing, frostbite, all of the dangerous implications of having no electricity during an extreme cold spell for 2 weeks. And newer forms of green energy are great as supplements, like wind, solar, all the things that add back into the grid. We're mostly on hydropower. But they do not cover everyone. They do not produce enough energy. So what happens is, as soon as it gets too cold and the grid starts working overtime because everyone's trying to stay warm, guess what they're using? Giant diesel generators to supplement the power plant. You're not getting away from petroleum products. You're not getting away from oil and gas, because even with all of the green sources of energy working in tandem and people trying to be conscientious around how much power they're using, our power plants still run on petroleum. We got everyone trying to be good and green, and yet the power plants can't keep up, and so we're using diesel fuel all the time. Multiple huge generators using diesel in order to make sure people don't freeze. We are not anywhere close to relying on green energy. And we're the lucky ones, because a power plant in a neighboring town, I think it caught on fire. Whatever happened, it stopped working during this 40 below spell. So a bunch of our power is being redirected and diverted to help them out so that a whole other little town doesn't freeze. But yeah, the disconnect between people who are just pushing to go like 100% renewable energy, even in places that have that and have a lot of supplementary sources that are able to support each other during times of peak hours, they are not nearly enough. We are still using petroleum fuels a lot to make sure that people can survive, at least in the north. And I have personal experience with this kind of vulnerability, because the coldest temperatures I ever experienced were -62 and the power went out for 2 days. So I have memories of that kind of scenario. I think I was a teenager, a preteen, somewhere in there. I think I have the exact date mixed up. But yeah, -62 and the power goes out. The propane in our fuel lines froze. So it was back and forth, wood stove heating, propane, power out. I think it came back on and then went out again and then eventually came back on. My mom had to get a neighbor to help her set up this contraption, this technological contraption to heat the oil in the lines so that we could have that source of fuel, and we had the fireplace going the entire time. But having a wood stove and having that reliable backup was what really helped, and most people up here these days do not have wood stoves. Major vulnerability. If you are living somewhere where it gets below -20, I mean, I would say even, warmer than that. But if you live somewhere where it gets below -20, you really need to be thinking about what your sources of heating are and always having some form of backup. And cars. Oh my God, so much to say about just vehicles in general. When I say cars, I'll probably be talking about trucks or SUVs and cars or whatever. But just vehicles. The vehicle trouble when it gets this cold is immense. A lot of cars won't start. A lot of cars won't start at like -30 or below, so never mind -45. And then either the remote start works, but then you go out to actually put the key in and start your car and it doesn't turn over, it doesn't actually start. You can only start it by remote and you can't drive that way. Or the opposite, vice versa, where the remote won't start. So you have to go out and actually sit in your car, get in your car to turn it on and warm it up and leave it running. And that can take 15 minutes to half an hour or more just to make sure that the vehicle is warmed up enough to drive without breaking something. And I don't know if it's people misunderstanding how to use certain technology, but there seem to be a lot of these remote start things where if you get in and leave your car running, it's like you can't lock it from the outside with the keys inside it. And I've heard this from multiple people. I do not know if it is just like a knowledge issue where they don't know how to do it, or if that is actually a thing. Because if it's a thing, you need to be able to start your car and let it warm up and lock it. At least up here, northern problems. But I'll come back to that. There's a whole other topic around there. And around -40, seat belts don't work properly. Like, they don't click. You have to hold it in and almost warm it up with your hands and jiggle it around a bunch. Otherwise, it just pops right back out. So it was so cold up here that seat belts weren't working properly. The little mechanism and springs, it just doesn't clamp down unless you make sure it's really in there, and it just seems to take time. You have to use a different technique to make sure that you are buckled up with your seatbelt when it gets that cold. Tire pressure gets low and tires end up cracking or bursting somehow. And like we have places around town where you can go and fill up your tires, but not many. So if you are all the way across town from the nearest place where you can refill your tires, you are just shit out of luck unless you know someone with like a hand pump. Or not a hand pump, like a power tool, one of those things where like battery operated, you can put it in and fill your tires back up. Not like out there pumping up your tires by hand. I don't mean that. And it seems like a mixed bag with electric cars. Some electric cars just go haywire. All of the electronics cannot handle the cold. They do not hold charge. So it says you've got like, I don't know, a couple of hours of driving and you only get like 20 to 30 minutes and then it'll break down because it's so cold, or it won't start properly, or the screens, like computers do not function well in the cold. A lot of electric cars do not work. And yet, again, like I said, mixed bag, because other ones, they seem to be working fine. And I don't know if those are just ones owned by people with big garages, heated garages, where, yeah, they're able to go out in the cold and have a much better time because their car was warm when they got in. When it comes to hybrids and electric cars, I would not take that gamble. I would need to drive an electric car at 40 below, leave it out overnight, several days, at that cold temperature, get in, start it, see how it turns on, see how it runs, see how long it lasts. Otherwise, no. And there seem to be a lot more cars on the side of the road this year. So 2 weeks of this cold spell, I have seen more vehicles, and I don't just mean little cars, I mean like trucks and SUVs and just vehicles in general. I have seen way more dead on the side of the road than I have ever seen before. I don't know if it's just coincidence and I just happen to be going those routes and seeing them, but it seems like there is just something going on with vehicles right now where they are not handling the cold as well as they used to. I don't know if it's a difference in like modern makes and models, or like parts and repairs, or if maybe some of them are hybrids. I haven't looked that closely, so I don't know. I haven't documented like what types are on the side of the road. I'm sure you guys can fill up the comments with all the jokes you want about that. But I don't know. I just know that there are far more vehicles dead on the side of the road this year than I have ever seen before during cold snaps. And car trouble was particularly infuriating, frustrating, annoying this year because I've got people in the hospital that I am trying to visit. I'm trying to bring them medical supplies. I'm trying to bring them stuff from home and visit them. And half of the time, my car won't start. Plugged in, like everyone up here plugs their car in. If it's colder than -20, there's a good chance that your car won't start or have trouble when you try starting it. So everyone has their car plugged in up here. There were just so many things happening around these holidays. And it was really tough for a lot of people. Like I didn't even have the worst of it. Like other people are suffering way more. Like I couldn't visit people or bring them Christmas stuff or help them out in the way that I really wanted to. Instead, I was stuck at home. And I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, well, like, take a bus. A lot of the bus routes are down because a lot of buses won't start when it's minus 45. The buses don't run properly. So we don't have public transit. You go out for a walk for a few minutes trying to get somewhere you got to go, and your eyes are freezing and you're getting frostbite. The buses aren't running, the cars aren't starting. I'm just glad we didn't have a power outage. I was thoroughly convinced we were going to have a power outage on like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with everyone cooking food. But I mean, maybe it's because they couldn't start their cars to go shopping for groceries. Maybe everyone was just kind of raiding their cupboards and that's why we didn't have a power outage. Who knows? And the city is so spread out that like if you want to go anywhere, it's going to take you at least a few minutes of walking. So you're going to be out there walking, getting frostnip in the cold. If there's any wind, you're just entirely screwed. And we don't have any warming centers or shelters. A lot of businesses are closed. It's not like you can just go down any street and there's going to be somewhere open, especially not at all hours of the day or night. And a lot of our bus waiting things, like a lot of our bus shelters, they're not heated. Some of them don't even have walls. Sometimes there is no shelter. So waiting for the bus, you might be waiting out in 40 below with a wind chill, and then the bus might not show up because the route happened to be canceled. Just hazards everywhere, danger everywhere, inconvenience everywhere. You actually have to think about your safety when you're going out to do something, unless you have like backup plans and you have prepared for everything. And I want to go back to that idea around like starting your car and having to let it run without being able to lock it from the outside. Again, I don't know if that's just like an ignorance thing with certain technology, if there's a way to overcome that, but I know multiple people who are like, I can't lock my door with the key in it and running. So you have to leave your car unlocked, which sucks because we also have a lot of rampant petty crime up here. So I grew up without a lot of money. I grew up around some, rough and tumble type people, some potentially criminal people. I was a kid. I know nothing. Don't ask me. But I could read between the lines and I heard a lot of things. And life was rough for a lot of people. And when life is rough for people, they will do what they gotta do. But when I was growing up, there was an unwritten rule, and everybody knew it. It was just common knowledge. Everyone talked about it, that you do not mess with someone's car in the winter. And the winter is basically any time between mid-September to mid-April. So this unwritten rule of you do not mess with someone's car, anyone's car, when it is starting to get cold out. Whether it's minus 10 or minus 40, you don't do that because you have no idea when that person could end up fixing their car, how long it could take for them to afford it, for the work to be done. And it could get down to minus 20, minus 30, minus 40. Unexpectedly, you never know how much danger you are putting someone in when you mess with their vehicle. Over the last 10 years, we have had so much vehicle crime, and I find it just particularly petty and disgusting. Because it's one of those just nostalgic small town things where it's like, yeah, you know what? No matter what type of awful person you are, nobody does this shit. And now they do. And it seems like one of those issues of small town honor just being eroded by people coming up from cities that know nothing about the North, who haven't thought of this. Because it could be a single mom working 2 jobs and trying to get her kids to school and other stuff. It could be a guy trying to support his elderly parents. Like it could be a vehicle used by 3 different people because they can't afford separate cars to do everything, so they coordinate. Like you never know what you are disrupting and whose lives, actual lives, you are putting in danger by messing with someone's vehicle up here. It was a cardinal sin to mess with someone's car in northern Canada when I was growing up. And these days, that kind of honor among people just seems to be gone. We've got tons of nighttime car shoppers, people who are breaking windows for meter money in the dash, stealing cars seemingly at random and leaving them in random spots. And I know people that this has happened to. And luckily, no, I don't know of any super severe consequences from this. But that's because everyone I know has people that they can rely on that can help. So they have options. Most people do not always have options. So messing with their vehicle just has these huge, long-lasting, widespread consequences. And I really think that it is just one of the scummiest forms of crime. And this has just gotten steadily worse over the years. And it really feels like a change from rural, small town honor to big city apathy, where pieces of shit don't have flecks of gold anymore. They're just shit. And, luckily, minus 40, that's extreme enough where even they're not out doing all of this crime anymore. But as soon as it warms up to, minus 20 or so, they're going to be back out there and breaking into cars and stealing money and potentially putting people's lives at risk if they're damaging the vehicle in some way that makes it undrivable or makes it break down easier in some way. Stealing gas. I didn't even mention that, but we've also had more cases of people siphoning fuel from vehicles. Just everywhere, every metric, any way that you can mess with a vehicle, you are lowest of the low. But yeah, anytime it gets down to minus 35 to minus 45, minus 55, I get this random nostalgia for times when criminals had boundaries and golden rules and they weren't doing things that risked people and kids getting frostbite or someone losing their job because their car's undrivable. I always end up thinking about this when it gets super cold and then looking back at all these increases in vehicular crime. Definitely not a good trend. I get reminded of that small town honor system that seems to have disappeared as our population has exploded and people have come up from cities and all these different locations. They don't have that honor system anymore. Or locals aren't teaching their kids and teenagers and young adult children to abide by that same moral code. Either way, things have changed. But stores can't open if employees or bosses don't show up. So if their car doesn't start, if they have car trouble, if they get stuck in the snow, if they break down along the way trying to get to work, or if they're stuck at home caring for people or they have other emergencies that they have to deal with during the cold, grocery stores, hardware stores, stores where people might really need supplies, it's not even really reliable that they're going to be open if there's only a couple of people on shift working there because their cars might not start. And then the roads. So even when you can drive at minus 35 to 40, you get immense ice fog all over the place. It is like driving through smoke or mist. You cannot see anything. Visibility is so low, and it's even worse when you're driving behind someone and their exhaust fumes are just billowing everywhere. Visibility is it's so hazardous. It's so dangerous. And with the snow on the roads too, a lot of people can't even see the lanes. You have to go by where the tire tracks are in front of you from everyone else who's been driving, who hopefully knew where they were going. So driving is just a mess. It is hazardous to be on the roads between the ice fog, the obscured lanes, the exhaust fumes. And then if anything does happen, if you're in a crash, if you go off the road, then hopefully you're in a more populated area where someone's going to come along and help you, but you're still going to be stuck still somewhere in the cold. and mood and mental health. Like everything just sucks. Everyone is in a bad mood. Everyone is grumpy. Everyone is like tearing up when they have to go outside to start their car, or like if they have a long walk to wherever they are going, if they have to take the bus. And of course, anytime your eyes water up, they're just gonna freeze quicker. So it's like, I'm so sad about the cold and I cannot shed a tear because then I'll get tissue damage on my face. Like, yeah, it's hard. It sucks. Don't move up here unless you are made of tougher stuff. I think part of me is just still up here out of spite for all of the bullshit that goes on like in southern areas and more populated areas. But I mean, slowly that's encroaching up here too. So I'm seeing the benefits of being way up here decrease with all of these different detriments that are being added to this environment, because it already sucked for so many reasons. And now guess what? We're getting all of the big city population areas issues too. Mental health just takes a huge nosedive at these temperatures. It is hard. You still have to go to work, or you might lose your job. You still have to go to school, or you're going to miss out on learning and tests and maybe get worse grades. You still have to go around and do all the necessities of daily living and like visiting people or helping to take care of them. You still have to do everything. And then there are sometimes more consequences for going outside than there are for staying in and not doing a damn thing. So I think that was everything I was going to bitch about. This was one of the worst, longest cold snaps during like winter solstice that I've ever gone through. And yeah, so it's special. So I wanted to talk about it. But yeah, I know a lot of people who have never visited the North at the right time, or people who have never lived in a northern place. Like it is it can be a surreal experience hearing the idea that like, yeah, I went out to start my car that was plugged in all night and it won't start and my eyes are freezing and now I've got frost nip on my cheeks and I'm going to go back inside where it takes me 20 minutes to warm up and there's no hot water. It's a simple life. And like for me, it is hard for me to imagine the opposite. So I think I don't think I've ever felt plus 40 degrees Celsius. I don't think I've ever been in plus 40 Celsius weather. I think the hottest that I experienced was plus 36, and that was too hot. It just was. I like heat. I don't handle extreme heat very well, and I consider like anything around plus 35 extreme heat. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but yeah, look it up and then laugh at me. Plus 36, I could see how it would be kind of nice with a breeze, but it was hard to handle. I was in Vegas. I don't gamble. And yet I was inside with all of the annoying slot machines because I needed to cool off in the air conditioning. And I think that is the warmest I have ever been. So in Celsius, plus or minus 40 degrees is kind of a nice symmetrical scale for the extremes, because they can both be dangerous. You've got like heat exhaustion, heat stroke on one side with like plus 40. And then with minus 40, you've got frostbite, hypothermia, all of that. And yeah, and a lot of people just don't like them. A lot of people cannot handle those two extremes. I am a temperate person, so I think, and I like being a bit warmer. So I think everything from -5 up to plus 25 is just ideal for me. Anything colder than that or warmer than that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start using technology to climatize my living area. Over the last 2 weeks, my heat was on as high as it will go, and I still had snow forming on the inside of my like 3 layers of curtains. It was coming through. I could look at my window with layers of curtains, insulating curtains, and there was snow forming. I could actually touch it. There were little crystals. So I had snow growing in my place. But I think I've done enough complaining for one night. And yeah, Hopefully this gave you a bit of a better idea of what it's like living in northern Canada during a cold spell. Bye.